What would you do if the one thing your dying grandfather promised you was secretly sold while he was still alive? Imagine walking into the house where you learned your first song and finding an empty space where your childhood once stood. No piano, no explanation, just silence. And then your own mother says, "It was just furniture." Just furniture? What would it do to you to realize your family didn't just sell wood and strings, they sold your memory, your inheritance, your place in the family? But here's the part that changed everything. When I told my grandfather what they had done, he didn't cry, he didn't argue, he didn't even raise his voice. He made one phone call, and 6 calm words later, my parents' entire world began to collapse. This isn't just a story about money. It's about betrayal disguised as practicality, about being the quiet child until you finally stop being quiet, about what happens when dignity replaces fear. Stay with me, because what happened at my mother's retirement gala last fortnight left 50 guests speechless and exposed a truth my family thought would stay buried forever. And before we begin, if stories about truth, family, and quiet strength mean something to you, subscribe to the channel and like this video. Your love keeps these real, powerful stories alive. Now take a deep breath, because sometimes the softest voices deliver the loudest consequences. My name is Clara Whitmore. I'm 29 years old. 3 months ago, my parents sold the one thing my grandfather promised would always be mine, his 1901 Bosendorfer piano, and used every dollar to pay for my brother's luxury wedding venue. They thought Grandpa was too weak in palliative care to notice. They thought I was too sensitive to confront them. They were wrong. When I told my grandfather what they had done, he didn't raise his voice, he didn't cry, he didn't even look surprised. He simply reached for his glasses, asked me to hand him his phone, and spoke 6 calm words that unraveled my parents' entire world. But before I tell you what those 6 words were and what happened at my mother's retirement gala 2 weeks later, take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if stories about truth, family, and quiet strength mean something to you. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. The call came on a Thursday evening while I was washing dishes in my tiny apartment kitchen. My mother's name flashed across my screen. Unusual because she rarely called unless she needed something. "Your grandfather's being transferred," she said flatly. "They're recommending palliative care." No, "How are you?" No pause, just logistics. I dropped the plate I was holding. It shattered in the sink. I had been the only one visiting Grandpa regularly, the only one who sat with him during chemo, the only one who listened when he talked about music and regret and time. When I arrived at the hospital that night, my parents and my brother were already there. My father stood with his usual posture, arms folded, jaw tight, the look of a man calculating inconvenience. My mother was on her phone coordinating catering for something. My brother, Daniel, scrolled through wedding venues. "Good," my father said when he saw me. "You can handle daily visits. You work freelance. Your schedule is flexible." Flexible. That was always their word for my life, as if I had chosen instability instead of following the only thing that ever made me feel alive, teaching music. "Of course," I said. No one asked if I was okay. Grandpa's room smelled faintly of cedar and antiseptic. He hated hospital smells. I brought him a small wooden music box from home, the one he had carved when I was 8. When it played, his eyes softened. "Clara," he whispered, squeezing my hand, "promise me something." "Anything." "The piano. You'll take it." I nodded immediately. That piano wasn't furniture. It was memory. It was the sound of Sunday mornings. It was the first place I ever felt talented. "It was your great-grandmother's," he said. "I've told your parents. It's yours." I believed him. 2 weeks later, I went to his house to grab some of his old sheet music. I let myself in with the spare key. The living room felt wrong. You know how you can feel absence? The corner near the window, the corner where sunlight used to hit the polished wood, was empty. The piano was gone. There was a square imprint on the rug, a ghost of something removed. I called my mother. "Oh, that," she said casually. "We sold it. Your brother's wedding costs are ridiculous. It was just sitting there." I couldn't breathe. "You sold it?" My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "Clara, don't be dramatic. It's an object." It was never an object. When I confronted my father later that night, he didn't deny it. "We got $120,000, he said, almost proud. "What about Grandpa?" I asked. "He doesn't need to know," my mother snapped. "Stress will kill him faster." And then she said something that split me open. "If you tell him and something happens, that's on you." I went home shaking. I lay awake until 4 a.m. staring at the ceiling of my small apartment, replaying every moment I swallowed my voice to keep the peace. Every time I let them belittle my career, every time I accepted being the less successful child, every holiday where Daniel's achievements were toasted and mine were politely ignored. If I stayed silent now, I wasn't protecting Grandpa. I was protecting their comfort. The next morning, I told him. I expected shock, maybe heartbreak. He listened quietly. When I finished, he adjusted his oxygen cannula and asked for his phone. "Harold," he said when the call connected, his voice steady. "It's time." That was it. 2 words. It's time. I didn't understand then. I did 2 weeks later. My mother's retirement gala was hosted at the family estate, the same estate my parents loved to present as proof of their success. Crystal glasses, caterers, 50 guests from their social circle. My brother arrived in a tailored suit, glowing about centerpieces and floral arches. I stood near the back, invisible as usual, until Harold walked in. Silver hair, impeccable posture, leather briefcase. He waited until my mother tapped her glass for a speech. "Before you begin," he said calmly, "there are estate matters that must be addressed." You could feel the air change. My father went pale. Harold placed documents on the dining table. "The property you're celebrating in," he began, "remains solely in your father's name." Silence. "He transferred it into a protected trust 3 years ago." My mother's smile froze. "The sole beneficiary," Harold continued, "is Clara." The room erupted in whispers. My brother laughed nervously. "That's not funny." "It's not intended to be," Harold replied. Then came the second blow. The Bosendorfer piano sold without authorization was part of the trust's protected assets. The funds must be returned within 60 days. My father's voice cracked. "We already paid deposits." "Then you'll need to recover them," Harold said. For the first time in my life, I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't apologizing. I wasn't invisible. My parents looked at me like I had betrayed them. But I hadn't. They had betrayed themselves. The fallout was swift. The wedding venue had to be downgraded. My brother raged for weeks. Social invitations slowed. Business partnerships cooled. Grandpa passed away peacefully a month later. At the funeral, I didn't mention the trust. I talked about music, about integrity, about how love without respect isn't love. 6 months later, I moved into the estate, not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted to rebuild something honest. I used part of the returned money to start a community music program in Grandpa's name for kids whose parents couldn't afford lessons. The first time a 7-year-old played her first scale correctly, I cried harder than I had at the gala. My brother eventually called me. not to apologize, but to ask how I had the courage. I was scared, I told him. I just stopped letting fear choose for me. My parents and I don't speak much, not out of hatred, just distance. Sometimes distance is peace. Tonight, I sit at a different piano, not the Bosendorfer, but a beautiful Yamaha I chose myself. The house is quiet, the windows are open, the air smells like jasmine from Grandpa's old garden. I play softly, not for inheritance, not for validation, but because it's mine. And if you've ever felt like the invisible child, if you've ever been told you were too emotional, too soft, not practical enough, I need you to hear this. Silence does not make you good, shrinking does not make you lovable, and setting boundaries does not make you